My family refused to support my startup, but now that it's successful, they call it the family business. My name's Zachary, I'm 34, and I grew up in a pretty well-off family. My dad owned multiple businesses scattered across the city: real estate, retail, and a few other ventures. My mom? She's the landlord of several apartment buildings. Yes, several. Even my grandparents, though not quite as wealthy, were the original entrepreneurs in the family. They were the ones who built enough success to give my parents their first big push. In our family, the expectation was simple: either inherit something and keep it going, or start your own empire. Naturally, I wanted to take the second route. I wasn't some starry-eyed kid dreaming about a beach shack in the Bahamas, not that there's anything wrong with that. I had a real plan. Since I was 14 and accidentally hacked my school's server to erase my detention record, I discovered I had a knack for computers. I majored in computer science, spent countless hours buried in encryption, data breach case studies, and coding. Cybersecurity wasn't just fascinating, it was profitable. Every company, bank, and hospital needs it. It's like selling umbrellas in a world where it's always raining. I had a vision, a potential client base, and a detailed business plan. What I didn't have was funding. I didn't need millions, just enough to rent office space, hire a small team, and get the initial software and hardware. One morning, I sat down with my parents in the living room and pitched my idea. I had graphs, market research, and passion. I told them I didn't want a gift, just a loan I'd repay with interest once the business took off. Their answer? Zach, we love you, but we don't think you have what it takes to run a business. It wasn't cruelly said, but it hit hard. My dad explained that being a good programmer doesn't automatically make you a good entrepreneur. Running a company meant handling employees, investors, losses, all the boring, unglamorous stuff. In their eyes, investing in me wasn't a wise move, it was throwing money away. I was hurt and furious. But I wasn't ready to give up. A month later, at my cousin Bernard's lavish 3-day wedding, I overheard him thanking my parents for funding his hotel business. My parents had turned me down, but Bernard? He got the money. That cut deep. It wasn't about Bernard succeeding, good for him, it was about my own parents deciding I wasn't worth the risk. Later that night, my grandmother found me sulking outside. I told her everything. She listened quietly and then said, Zachary, sometimes people see potential in others because they see a younger version of themselves. Your father might see himself in Bernard. That doesn't mean you're not capable. You're just different, and that's not a bad thing. The very next day, my grandfather called me over. He's not the kind of man who phones just to chat, so I knew it was serious. When I arrived, he got straight to the point. Your grandmother told me what happened. I started my first business with nothing but an old van and a loan from my uncle. Everyone thought I'd fail. But I didn't, because one person believed in me. I want to be that person for you. He pulled out his checkbook and wrote me a sum, not the full amount I needed, but enough to truly get started. This isn't just money, he said. It's trust. I'm investing in you. That moment changed everything. After my grandfather handed me that check, he pulled me into a hug and said, make us proud. On the drive home, I couldn't stop staring at it. It wasn't just money, it was proof that someone actually believed in me. With that initial funding, I knew I had to be careful with every single cent. No fancy desks. No overpriced ergonomic chairs. We started small. I called my 2 best friends, Adam and Luis, and together we pooled our savings to rent a tiny, cramped office in one of the roughest neighborhoods in the city. But it was ours. The first 2 years were brutal. We worked 14 to 16 hours a day, weekends included. My diet was basically instant noodles and vending machine snacks. Luis was constantly on calls, Adam was buried in code, and I was juggling, well, everything. Our big break came when a mid-sized financial firm got hacked. We repaired their systems, recovered their data, and put protections in place to stop it from happening again. That project gave us enough cash to move into a slightly better office. From there, word of mouth started working in our favor. Bigger clients came knocking. 4 years in, we hit our first major milestone and opened a second office in a nearby city. A year later, we opened a third in a major metropolitan area. By then, we weren't some scrappy little startup anymore, we were a legitimate, growing company. We even launched a cybersecurity consulting branch, helping companies prevent breaches before they happened. The consulting work? Let's just say, it paid very well. About 5 years after starting, I was finally in a position to repay my grandparents. I drove to their house, handed them a check with interest, and because I could I also bought them a new home. Nothing ridiculously flashy, but cozy, comfortable, and in a neighborhood they'd always loved. Watching them walk through it, pointing out little details they adored, was one of the most rewarding moments of my life. Meanwhile, Bernard's hotel wasn't doing so great. The pandemic hit, crushing the hospitality industry. My parents gave him even more money to keep things afloat, but eventually, the business shut down for good. Honestly, I felt bad for him, but I couldn't help but notice the irony. Fast forward to last weekend. We were celebrating my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary. They're the reason I have everything I do today, so I wanted to go all out, a beautiful hotel ballroom, catered dinner, live band, even inviting old friends and neighbors they hadn't seen in decades. Planning it felt more emotional than closing some of my biggest business deals. The party was perfect. Everyone was dressed up, the food was incredible, and my grandparents were glowing with happiness. That's all I cared about until my parents started talking. I overheard my dad chatting with an old friend. When the friend said he must be proud of me, my dad went on about family values and how their guidance put me on the right track. He even called my company basically a family business now. Excuse me, what? As the night went on, I caught more snippets of similar conversations. My parents were painting themselves as the backbone of my success. We always knew he'd do something great. We supported him every step of the way. That's what we do as a family, we lift each other up. And the kicker? My dad said, it's all thanks to the family's initial support. I wasn't expecting them to kneel at my feet or give me a tearful apology. But taking credit for something they actively refused to help with? That didn't sit well. I tried to focus on the party, but I was fuming inside. I had originally planned a simple, heartfelt toast to my grandparents, but after what I'd heard, I decided I couldn't let it slide. I started light-hearted, cracking a few jokes about how their marriage was older than the internet, then spoke about the love and respect they'd always shown each other. But then I got serious. My grandparents didn't just build a life together, they built a legacy. A legacy of love, trust, and most importantly, faith in people. When I had a dream and everyone else slammed the door in my face, they opened it. They didn't just believe in my idea, they believed in me. And everything I have today is because of their faith when nobody else had it. I paused. My parents' smiles looked frozen, almost strained. So tonight, I want to raise a toast to the two people who believed in me when no one else did. This success is theirs and theirs alone. My grandmother was crying, my grandfather nodded with that calm, proud smile of his, and my parents were smiling through gritted teeth. About 15 minutes later, my dad found me by the dessert table, practically hissing, "What the hell was that speech? Were you trying to humiliate us in front of everyone?" "Humiliate you?" I replied. "I just told the truth. You didn't believe in me, but Grandma and Grandpa did." My mom joined in, saying, "You didn't have to air family drama in public. You made us look terrible." I was holding my tongue until my dad said, "You act like we never did anything for you. We gave you a good life, a good education. How dare you make us the villains in your little success story?" That's when my voice went up. I didn't yell, but I made sure they heard me. I looked my parents straight in the eye and said, "You know what? You didn't believe in me. You had the money, but you gave it to Bernard for his hotel without hesitation. And when it failed, you gave him even more. But when I came to you with my idea, you told me I wasn't business material." That's when I realized the entire room had gone silent. Guests were staring. Bernard, the hotel cousin, was awkwardly nursing his drink in the corner, looking like he wished he could disappear. My dad jabbed a finger at me and snapped, "You're being ungrateful." I lost it. Ungrateful? No. I'm just saying out loud what everyone already knows. My chest was tight, my face was burning, and suddenly I became painfully aware that I had just made a scene at what was supposed to be a celebration for my grandparents. I glanced around and saw my grandmother watching me with a soft, sad expression, not disappointed, just sad. My grandfather had his arm around her, as if keeping her steady. That's when the guilt hit me. I didn't say another word. I just turned, walked out of the ballroom without even grabbing my coat, slammed my car door shut, and sat there staring at the steering wheel, trying to calm down. I didn't sleep that night. The argument kept replaying in my head over and over. The next morning, I got a text from my grandmother, "We love you very much. Please don't feel bad about last night. We understand. As sweet as it was, it didn't make me feel much better. I kept thinking I'd crossed a line and ruined an evening that was supposed to be about them. Update number 1. I figured things would cool down after that night. Maybe everyone would reflect a little and then we'd have an adult conversation. Yeah, no. My parents went nuclear instead. It started small. A cousin texted me, "Hey Zach, is it true you manipulated grandma and grandpa into giving you money?" That's what uncle said. At first, I laughed. It sounded ridiculous. But then more calls came. An aunt messaged me on Facebook saying she was disappointed that I played on my grandparents' emotions to get money from them. I called my grandmother immediately to check if she was okay. She told me, "Don't worry about what anyone says. We know the truth, and that's all that matters." Honestly, she's the sweetest woman alive. Just hearing her voice calmed me down a little. But I couldn't ignore the fact that my parents were spinning a completely twisted narrative. I'm not someone who enjoys confrontation despite my public meltdown at the anniversary, but this time, I couldn't let it go. I called my parents. "Why are people saying I manipulated grandma and grandpa? Why are you telling people that?" My mom said, "Well, didn't you sit there crying to them, making them feel bad for you? That's manipulation." I said, "No, that's called having emotions." I was explaining my situation. From the background, my dad chimed in, "Interpret it however you want, Zachary, but everyone sees you for what you really are now." That's when I told them, "Fine. Say whatever you want to everyone. I'm done trying to explain myself." And I hung up. I thought hanging up would bring me some peace. It didn't. Over the next week, the rumors got even worse. Someone claimed I'd threatened to cut grandma and grandpa out of my life if they didn't give me money. Another said I'd bragged about manipulating them and laughed about it. It was insane. How do you fight something so absurd? You can't, especially when people you care about start believing it. Even Bernard called me. "Hey, man. I know things are messy right now, but do you think you could talk to your parents and work this out?" I told him, "There's nothing to work out. They know the truth, they're just choosing to ignore it." That day, I texted my parents, "I can't keep doing this. You've decided to spread these lies, and I can't keep trying to convince you otherwise. I'm stepping away from this relationship for now. I love you both, but I can't keep letting this hurt me." Then I blocked them on social media, because they'd started posting passive-aggressive digs about me. I stopped answering relatives who were clearly just fishing for gossip. I'm in a weird place right now. If anything changes, I'll update. Update number 2. It's been a while and I wish I were coming back with better news. Last month, my grandfather passed away. The only comfort is that he went peacefully in his sleep. Still, it hit me like a freight train. He wasn't just the man who helped fund my business, he was a role model. The way he carried himself, the way he believed in people, that's what I admired most. As soon as I got the call, I packed a bag and drove straight to my grandmother's. She looked so small and fragile when I walked in, but she still managed to give me a weak smile and a hug. I don't think I've ever hugged anyone so tightly in my life. Planning the funeral was hard, but I had to do it for her. My parents were there too. We were civil, but the tension hung in the air like a fog. Everyone knew there were unresolved issues, but no one had the energy to touch them while we were grieving. The funeral itself was beautiful. Hundreds of people came. My grandfather was one of those rare, genuinely good souls, and it was overwhelming to see how many lives he'd touched: old business partners, childhood friends, neighbors. People came from all over to honor him. I tried to hold it together while giving the eulogy, but halfway through, I completely lost it. My grandmother held my hand the whole time, and I'm so grateful she was there because I honestly don't think I could have gone through it alone. This is where things got complicated. My grandfather wasn't super wealthy or anything, but he did own a few properties, including a gorgeous lakeside house. The kind of place you see on postcards, a wooden dock, huge windows overlooking the water, surrounded by tall trees. My dad spent much of his childhood there, and even I have fond memories running along the dock, fishing with grandpa, roasting marshmallows by the fire. During the will reading, the lawyers listed his assets, and then came the lake house. My grandfather left it to both me and my cousin Laura. For context, Laura is my dad's sister's daughter. She's great, someone I get along with well. But the moment my dad heard, "Zachary and Laura will share the lake house," I swear I saw his jaw tighten. He didn't say anything right then, but his face said it all: pure anger. After the will reading, he walked out without a word to me. My mom followed him, and I was left sitting there awkwardly with Laura and my grandmother. Over the next few days at my grandma's, Dad avoided me completely. If we were in the same room, it was like I didn't exist. Mom would give me these awkward half-smiles but didn't say much either. It felt strange because it wasn't like I had asked for the lake house. I didn't even know Grandpa planned to leave it to me. But somehow, Dad seemed to take it as a personal attack, like Grandpa had chosen my side in some imaginary feud. One night, Laura and I talked over tea. She admitted she also felt awkward because her mom, my dad's sister, wasn't thrilled about the will either. But at least Laura's mom didn't act cold toward her. One afternoon, while helping Grandma sort through Grandpa's old belongings, she sat me down and said, "Your grandfather loved your dad very much, Zachary. But he also saw how hard you worked and how much you tried to prove yourself. He wanted you to have something that meant a lot to him." I think she knew I felt guilty, like I had somehow made the rift between my dad and me worse. But she told me something that stuck. Your grandfather wasn't choosing sides, he was choosing love. He loved you, and he loved Laura. That's why he wanted you both to have a place where you could always feel close to him. The night before I went home, I ran into Dad in the kitchen. He was making tea, I was getting a glass of water. Silence. Then he finally said, "You know, that lake house was supposed to stay in the family. It was supposed to be ours." I replied, "It still is, Dad. I'm not selling it, I'm not turning it into a rental, it's still ours." He didn't answer. He just stirred his tea, set the spoon down, and walked out. Update 3. Now things have escalated. My dad is suing me. He claims the lake house is his, even though Grandpa's will clearly left it to Laura and me. I can't share all the legal details, but here's the gist. Dad started showing up at my place without warning, demanding that I hand over the lake house. At first, I thought he just wanted to talk. But when I refused, he started making threats. He said Grandpa's will was wrong, and that I was being selfish for not giving him the property. Then came the official legal papers accusing me of obtaining the house dishonestly and manipulating Grandpa into giving it to me. It's absurd. My mom has been trying to mediate, telling me to just give him the house so we can move past this. But at this point, I don't think there's any going back. The damage is done. Update 4. This update comes long after the last one because the court battle dragged on far longer than it should have. My dad couldn't overturn Grandpa's will, but he had skilled lawyers who were good at delaying things. I think he hoped I'd eventually give in. But the house wasn't mine alone, it's also Laura's, and neither of us would back down. Grandma's testimony in court helped a lot. Dad, on the other hand, had no real evidence. Still, his constant accusations caused problems for me outside of court, even hurting my business. So I decided to fight back and sued him for defamation and damages. I won. I don't know the exact value of the lake house because we've never had it appraised, we're not selling it, but I'm certain the legal costs and what he had to pay me far exceeded any profit he might have made from selling it. Part of the reason he was so fixated on the house was money. He wanted to sell it to fix his finances. The body of my grandfather wasn't even cold before he started thinking about inheritance. Poor investments and bad loans had left him in a difficult position, and this lawsuit only made it worse. In the end, my parents had to sell their home. Part of the money went to pay me, and the rest to cover other debts. They still have Dad's business, though he's been looking to sell part of it. Some relatives suggested I buy in to keep it in the family, but honestly, partnering with him is the last thing I want.